Spider-Verse, absolutely insane. Loved the hell out of that movie. Potentially one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Spider-Man film ever made. I know every time a Spider-Verse movie comes out, or just a Spider-Man movie in general, fans like to tout it as the best, based off of personal opinion. But Across the Spider-Verse has a chance to be the best Spider-Man film. In my personal opinion, it was. And that's only part one of this film. I forgot initially when they announced Across the Spider-Verse, they announced it as Across the Spider-Verse Part 1 and then Across the Spider-Verse Part 2, but they've since separated them since the movie's release. It's Across the Spider-Verse basically ends on a cliffhanger, so it ends on a big to be continued, and then that follows up with Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. Like I said, initially it was slated as the same movie but two parts, and then they were like dates set apart for the releases of them. Beyond the Spider-Verse's release is slated in March of 2024, so it's not too far around the corner based on what we're used to with films and their trilogy. It's usually like a couple year wait before the next one. And since this is a cliffhanger finish, to be continued finish, they're gonna have it be within 9 months, which is not a long waiting time at all in the grand scheme of things. I tried to do a whole review of the movie. I was breaking down things bit by bit by bit by bit, but I'm not going to do that. There's going to be loads of videos doing that a lot better than I am. I was skipping over a lot of stuff purposely and accidentally at the same time because I'm a day removed from seeing it and my mind isn't as fresh. I was going to do it in the car after I left the movies, but I'm like, I'll just go home, take it in, come back, make a video on it. So I think what I'm going to do in this video is like just kind of skim over a bunch of big points, talk about the ending, and what that means for the future and everything. The movie's mostly about Miles trying to find himself. He hasn't seen his spider friends in a long time. Gwen comes along. She's like, hey, I'm back, Gwen's going through all her own stuff. Obviously her Peter died in her universe, who was the Lizard, and her dad kind of caught Spider-Woman there at the time. And, her dad has this whole vendetta against Spider-Man as Gwen Stacy's dad always does in these kind of situations, and he blames her for the death of Peter Parker. And eventually along the movie, Gwen shows her dad that she's Spider-Woman. He can't believe it. She goes through an interdimensional portal with Jessica Drew and Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099, who is kind of the big orchestrator in this movie of the multiverse containing it. As we've seen with, characters like Miss Minutes and He Who Remains explain, like, hey, like there's a lot going on in the multiverse. You don't want to do these things to mess it up. As we saw in Loki season 1, when Loki and Sylvie finally made it to He Who Remains, Sylvie killed He Who Remains, and he was basically explaining like, hey, if I die, all this goes to shit. And they killed him, and a bunch of shit goes to shit. Yeah, bringing it back to Spider-Verse, Gwen goes through the portal with Miguel O'Hara, Jessica Drew. They bring her into this like Spider Alliance, like this team of spider people who fight off against basically incursions or just anomalies within other Spider-Verses that aren't supposed to happen. And she gets an arm bracelet to come visit Miles, and she kind of halfway explains it to him like, hey, you can't really come with us because you're basically not trusted, and someone's racing outside. I don't really understand why. Struggles of living next to a street, a busy, very busy intersection. But yeah, anyway, basically the overarching theme is Miles is an anomaly. Miles is an anomaly within his own universe because he's not supposed to be Spider-Man at all, which was absolutely mind-blowing watching the film. Like, that's crazy. So the spider that bit Miles is actually from Alchemax number 42. Earth 42 was supposed to bite Earth 42's Miles Morales. But somehow, some way, the Spider-Verse, it traveled to Miles' universe, Earth 1610, if I'm not mistaken, that's the right number for that, and it bit Miles. So Earth 42, Miles Morales, he doesn't get bit by a spider. That universe has no Spider-Man at all, and he eventually turns into the Prowler. So that's just a whole thing towards the end of the movie. I know I'm jumping around a lot. I'm trying to like keep it connected as possible, but there's just so much. There's so many things, and I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to sit here and go bit by bit by bit by bit by bit, because there's going to be other videos on YouTube explaining that a lot better. I just want to just pinpoint a bunch of big things and try to like pull them all together towards the end of the video. Gwen's a part of this Spider Alliance. Miles eventually follows her through because Gwen is tracking the spot. He's going on this big tear of obtaining all this power. He's going to all these different universes. He's going to every single Alchemax within the Spider-Verse containing a bunch of power and obtaining it basically. And, Miles follows her through. They meet Spider-Man India. They meet Spider-Bite. They meet a bunch of different spider people. It's just awesome seeing everybody. Gwen eventually takes him to like the big Spider-Verse. I forgot Miguel O'Hara's like name for it. I'll probably pop it up on the screen or something. But yeah, man, like that's just, as a Spider-Man fan, Obviously, the different variations of him have been so popular over the years. I feel like the most popular iterations, obviously, Miguel O'Hara, Miles Morales, Ben Reilly, like some of the more iconic variations of him, and even some of the more obscure ones, which I'm pretty sure in like a Easter egg video that will eventually come out. Shout out to Screen Crush. They will make a video talking about all the different Spider-Man captured. People will pinpoint, if not all of them, like every single Spider person and where they're from, what comic they're from, what video game, whatever the case is. But can I just give a shout out to Josh Keaton? Josh Keaton, the voice actor for the Spectacular Spider-Man, had voice lines in a Spider-Man movie. Like, that's surreal. The amount of Spectacular Spider-Man fans of that show just wanting another season after ending on a cliffhanger, just to have him even get, it literally was 2 lines. He was like, "He's right, Miles, this is how it has to be," or something like along those lines. And it's just like, dude, he's in a Spider-Man movie. He's getting prominent time in a Spider-Man movie. It's just 2 lines, but they showed him, Miguel O'Hara explaining to Miles basically like, hey, every Spider-Man goes through a certain canon event that happens in all of their lives. Uncle Ben dies, or if their father or somebody becomes a chief captain, they die. Those are basically the 2 prominent things that happen within the Spider realm world. And Miguel O'Hara's explaining like, hey, Miles, you're an anomaly. You weren't supposed to get bit by that spider from Earth 42. That's why we haven't, really, no one's come to visit you since the initial, Spider-Verse incursion accident. Like, you're not really supposed to be Spider-Man. Basically what Miguel O'Hara is explaining to Miles. And Miles loses it because upon finding that out, Miles' father, like I just mentioned, if your father becomes like chief captain of the police force, eventually dies. And the Whole is obtaining so much power from all these different Alchemexes in different universes that he plans to take away everything from Miles, as Miles did from the Spot. I hope I haven't been calling him the Whole in this video. I just peeped that I might have called him the Whole. I have the worst memory ever. Another reason why I should have made this video as soon as that movie ended and as soon as I walked out of that movie theater, because I'm probably butchering a bunch of things. Everything's all over the place. My explanations are kind of weird. But again, there's going to be other videos on YouTube to explain it more in depth. I'm just touching on a lot of the big plot points in the movie. Yeah, again, like I said, Miles' dad is bound to die. That's his, I guess, fate as a spider person, even though he's not supposed to be a spider person. And that's what Miguel O'Hara is trying to explain to Miles. You're not supposed to be here. I'm not even supposed to be talking to you. You're not supposed to be Spider-Man. And Miles says, I can do both. I can save my dad. I can stop all this from happening, and it won't cause any problems. That's to be foreseen in the next movie, but Miles is so determined to have that happen. He leads them all on a big spider chase. He leads them all the way from the Alchemex there. Is that Alchemex, or is that just like the big stationary building? I can't even remember. Miles, like, again, leads them on a big chase. He leads them away from the big center where all the Spider-Verse stuff goes down, and they're on a train leading into the sky, and then he basically electrocutes Miguel O'Hara, shoots down to that, and goes back home. But as he enters the building, Spider-Bite is there, and she's kind of like monitoring everything, and Miles can turn invisible. So he's moving around in there, he's turning on everything, he's hopping back into the spider machine that sends these anomalies or these people from different universes back to their home. So Miles hops in with the intention of, hey, I'm gonna go home. It scans your DNA, yada, yada, yada. It sends you back to your universe. It scans the spider that bit you. However you obtain your spider powers, it sends you back to that intended universe. And since it was Earth 42 Spider that bit Miles, it sent him back to Earth 42, where Miles Morales in that universe is the Prowler. So there's just a bunch of moving parts, a bunch of crazy stuff happening. Miles goes back with the intention to save his father, stop the Spot, and just save the whole fate of the Spider-Verse. Because, after Miguel O'Hara lets him know, like, hey, if you try to stop this, there's going to be a breakage within the Spider-Verse, the multiverse. Is going to cause all this bad stuff. And Miles was like, I can stop both. I can save my dad and prevent that from happening. That's to be foreseen still. We don't know. So Miguel O'Hara, furious, basically he takes Ben Reilly, Jessica Drew, and they go back to find Miles. And they go on a big search. Gwen also eventually goes on that big search along with them. Not with them, but she's within the same universe as Ben Reilly and Jessica Drew. Now, the thing is, like I said, Miles is on Earth 42, but he doesn't know yet. He's going to his house. He doesn't know he's in Earth 42. Gwen, Jessica Drew, Miguel O'Hara, Ben Reilly are all on Earth 1610, Miles' intended universe he was trying to get to. Because they're trying to find him, trying to stop him before he causes like this big incursion, this big like multiversal breakage from trying to save his father. So stuff's breaking down. Miles eventually gets to his home. Hears his mom. He's talking to his mom. He's like, Mom, I gotta tell you something. You know, I went and saw the spider people. You know, they didn't want me, yada, 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 all this stuff. And then he eventually reveals to her that he's Spider-Man. But again, there's no Spider-Man on Earth 42. So she's like, who's Spider-Man? And Miles is like dumbfounded, like, what are you talking about? Like the guy who spins all the web, saves, beats all the bad guys, saves the day all the time. She is dumbfounded. She does not know who he is. She's like, what joke is this? Is this somebody you dress up as? Again, no Spider-Man on Earth 42. He walks out of the room, looks around, you know, like it's his house, obviously. Coming through the door is his Uncle Aaron. Aaron Davis, who is obviously dead in Miles' universe, his Earth 1610. Miles is just hit with a wave of emotions like, oh my God, there's my uncle. I missed you. He hugs him real tight. And Aaron Davis, his uncle, knows that's not the Miles from this universe, because he instantly asks him, hey, you took down your braids, because Miles from Earth 1610, the one that traveled here to save his dad, has like, you know, his fro, basically. And he's like, you took down your braids? And he's like, yeah, I'm still getting used to it. And he's like answering everything kind of like weird. And they eventually go up to the roof. His uncle's like, security leaves at this time. We gotta get in, get out, yada, yada, yada. And he's like, yeah, got you. And, you know, Miles is glitching out. He's not supposed to be in this universe. And his uncle was like, you all right? And Miles was like, yeah, I just got a cold, because he didn't see him glitch out. So they head to the roof. He kind of like lures them up there, and as Miles looks around, like the city is like, you know, like really dark, really just beat up. And you look on the wall, there's a mural of his dad. Jeff Davis passed away in this universe. But yeah, he's on the roof. He's realizing all this stuff is happening. He realizes then he's in the wrong universe, and out of nowhere he gets hit by the Prowler again, who in this universe is Miles Morales. Aaron Davis ties him up on the punching bag. Miles is trying to like beg to him, like, hey, don't do this. I need to get back to my Earth. I'm not from here, yada, yada, yada. He explains he gets bit by a spider. And none of them know any of what's going on, because it's like, there's no Spider-Man in that universe. They don't even know who Spider-Man is. And then obviously the Prowler pops in, pops off the mask, reveals he's Miles Morales. And Miles is like, hey man, if you don't let me go, our dad's gonna die. He's like, no, your dad in your universe is gonna die. So the Prowler already knows what's up with that, Miles. But it's like, damn, bro, like that's wild. I was just like, please let me go home. He's like, why would I do that? So that's kind of where that clips off for Miles. They show Gwen at Miles' home on Earth 1610. She ends up talking to his parents. He's kind of like half-assed answering their questions. He's eventually like, hey, like Miles, I don't know where he is. I'm going to find him. And there's just a bunch of stuff that goes down with that. Gwen goes on this journey to obtain all these spider people, you know, Spider Bite, Spider-Man India, Spider-Man Noir, Penny Parker, Peter Porker, Spider-Ham from the first film, like gathers this whole big group of spider people to go find Miles, go help Miles, because she knows what's going on. She wants to help him, even though she wasn't completely honest with him, because Gwen and Peter B. Parker both knew that Miles Morales was an anomaly. He wasn't supposed to be a Spider-Man, basically. And he found that out later in the film. He was hurt, he was offended, but Gwen wants to right that wrong. Obviously, Peter wants to right that wrong as well. He's a part of that spider group as well, along with Mayday, who's like in like the little baby like carrier thing that he has on, which is adorable, absolutely amazing. So yeah, man, she's assembled her spider crew or spider group to go fight against this. And Jessica Drew sees Gwen like appearing at Miles's home. She just lets it happen. She knows like the kid needs help. I'm not gonna like rat him out to Miguel O'Hara and Ben Reilly. I'm just gonna let it happen. We'll see what happens next. But yeah, man, I know I probably explained that terribly, but that's kind of like my ramble, my like plot point jumping explanation of the movie. Again, I just really wanted to get my thoughts out and explain it. I explained the majority of it to you guys because like I had to get it out. I had to talk about it in some way, shape, or form. And if I sat here and broke every single thing down bit by bit by bit by bit by bit, this video would be 30 to 35 minutes. And I don't have enough storage on my phone for that. So that's a no-go. But yeah, man, Spider-Verse, like I said, has the potential to be the greatest Spider-Man film ever. And this film ended on a cliffhanger, and there's going to be a continuation. I'm still treating it as like Across the Spider-Verse 1 and Across the Spider-Verse 2, even though I know the next film is going to be its own standalone thing, but it's still obviously the continuation from Across the Spider-Verse. So it's like it's just conflicting. I have a hard time separating the films, even though they're going to be titled different, even though they have the same story. I was like, okay, we got the Spider group together. We're going to fight. We're going to get Miles. I usually pay attention to my phone in the movies. Like, I'll like shine it down, look at the time, see where we're at, to see how much time is left. I was so immersed in the movie. I was looking at the time. I'm like, okay, we got the Spider group. Everybody's back. Oh my God, you know, from the initial film. And then I'm like, okay, we're going to fight. Movie cuts off on me. When I say I'm not hot, I'm not mad. I'm like, that's a crazy cliffhanger, because I literally thought we were going to get I thought we were going to get a definitive end, and then the next movie is Beyond the Spider-Verse. Even more crazy stuff happens. This is literally just a continuation from this huge-ass film, Spider-Verse, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, heading into Beyond the Spider-Verse. So stuff's going to get even more crazy. Miles is currently on Earth 42 in a bit of a tussle tangle-up when the Aaron Davis out there and the Miles Morales, who is the Prowler, out there. Gwen is on a search to go get Miles. Miguel O'Hara is still on Miles' trail. There's so much that goes on. Also to mention, Ganke, who is Spider-Man's like guy in the chair, kind of like tech guy, help him out. Obviously, we've seen it in the video games, and I'm pretty sure in the comics. Ganke's this guy in the chair, and Miles is coming back from fighting the Spot earlier in the movie, and he thought he has him beat initially, but he has to go back to fight him. But when Miles crawls through his dorm window, he's like, "Hey man, can you call a police report? I have the Spot tied up on this roof over here." And if you look on the screen, Ganke's playing. He has a PS5 controller in his hand, a white PS5 controller, and he's literally just sitting there playing. Like, the screen is like kind of blurry and it's like moving in frames. You can see he's playing Spider-Man 2. That just blew my mind. Obviously, Spider-Man 2 releasing in the fall of this year, and you can tell it's Spider-Man 2 because if you look at the bottom of the screen, as we saw in the gameplay demo from a couple weeks ago, or like a week ago at this point, you can see there's like a little circle at the bottom, like the L1 button, because as we saw with the symbiote gameplay, as we saw with the symbiote gameplay, there's button commands for R1 and L1. There's like L1 and then 4 different options, and then R1 and 4 different options. And if you look at the bottom of the screen, you can see that the L1 button prompt was there with the 4 different options. That's wild. Crazy product placement, insane product placement. I'm here for it. Just casually playing Spider-Man 2, and like, they show enough screen time of that screen to let you know, like, hey, this is that. You can tell by the health bar. Again, like I said, the L1 button prompt at the bottom. And I think in like one of the camera shots, he's fighting with like the 4 arms we saw in the initial Spider-Man 2 gameplay trailer way back in like September of 2021, which is so long ago at this point. So like, just absolutely amazing. Like I said, with Josh Keaton having voice lines in the movie is so like, it's a really big deal. It's a really big deal. I'd hope it's a big deal at least, because there's no way they can't or don't do anything else with him heading forward. Like, yeah, it's like a cool Spider-Verse cameo. He was at the premiere before the movie came out worldwide. Like, give us another season or something with Josh Keaton, dude. Like, whatever, give me a spectacular Spider-Man game or something, please. I'm begging you. And then another big one, obviously, is Donald Glover popping up in the movie. Obviously, he popped up in Spider-Man Homecoming in 2017, Tom Holland's first film in his trilogy, as Miles' uncle. Because Peter's interrogating people, trying to find out why the Vulture, or like who is supplying the Vulture with these weapons. And he finds Aaron Davis. He is trying to interrogate him. He's like, Aaron Davis is like, I don't want these weapons in my neighborhood. I got a nephew who stays out here. And everyone instantly knew that he was talking about Miles Morales. As Gwen is showing, Miles everything within that, like the Spider, I guess, center. There's a name for it. I'm fucking forgetting. I'm sorry. But they're walking through the Spider Center, showing everybody like, hey, here's all these anomalies. Here's all these villains we beat up, and then we trap them, and then we eventually send them home back to their universe, back to their Earth. And just so happened to pass by Donald Glover dressed up in a Prowler suit, live action Donald Glover making a cameo in the movie. Like, it's so cool how the MCU is connected to the Spider-Verse, and like, there's just so many Easter eggs, and like, this character has such a big reach throughout just universes and worlds, and Spider-Verse displays it. Across the Spider-Verse displays it in the most emphatic fashion. Insomniac Games Spider-Man was there as well. Like, just everybody. And I'm probably forgetting some people, but like I said, I'm gonna watch a video breaking down all the Easter eggs, all the Spider-Man that can potentially even be verified or identified in the movie. Like, dude, Spider-Man is my all-time favorite superhero. Ever since I was a kid, like my first instant of experiencing Spider-Man was a Spider-Man coloring book, and I spent all day in that color. I had a couple of Spider-Man coloring books too. Coloring those all day. The first Spider-Man, anything I saw was Spider-Man 3. I was born in 03, so I didn't really start getting into Spider-Man until I was a little bit older, in 07 with Spider-Man 3 coming out. It got it on DVD, and I would just watch that every single day. And as time went on, I just fell in love with the character even more and more. Video games, coloring books, movies, shows, whatever it was, man, I was on it with Spider-Man. Obviously, you see the 2 posters on my walls. I've got like 4 more behind me. I've got a whole like setup over here, like full of just like Spider-Man stuff. I know I'm probably having really bad camera work, but there's like a bunch of Spider-Man figurines over there. The character truly does mean so much to me, and like, as I'm watching the film, I'm getting like so happy that I'm almost crying. Like, and like some people might see that as extreme. It's just a character, it's just a movie, yada, yada, yada. But like, there's only a couple things in my life that I generally get super excited for, or make me like emotional, or like super happy emotional, like tears of joy damn near. And as I'm watching like the art style of the movie, the swinging scenes, like when Miles and Gwen are like swinging through Brooklyn and everything's just so chill, and they're like trying to like just play around and like have a swing competition, and I'm seeing all the spider people, I'm like damn near coming to tears, bro. Because like this shit, it means so much to me, man. So much to the Spider-Man community. Spider-Man fans have been eating for years now. From 2016, from Tom Holland's recasting on, like they have been on it with Spider-Man, bro. Tom Holland recast, 2016 in Captain America Civil War. 2017, we get Spider-Man Homecoming. 2018, obviously he's in Infinity War. The Spider-Man video game comes out, we get Spider-Verse. 2019, Spider-Man Far From Home. 2020, we get Miles Morales launching with the PS5 in November of that year. And now at the end of this year, we get Spider-Man 2, Venom symbiote, Harry Osborn, Norman Osborn. We get Miles, Mary Jane, everyone's back. Everyone's back. I don't know if you can tell, but I fucking love Spider-Man.